Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our event, Indo-German Startup Stories. We welcome participants, guests from all over the world. So we have a lot of participants who registered from Germany, from other European countries, from India, and some friends and colleagues from Australia who are also interested in the topic of starting a business, and welcome. So we welcome you. We, that means my dear colleagues here, the organizers of this event today. A brief introduction. So this is Julian Six from GINSEP, Rajneesh Tiwari from GIRT and from TUHH, Lily Yong from Hamburg and West, and Johannes Berg, also organizer and the host today of the Digital Hub Logistics here in Hamburg. So just a brief introduction because you will get to know them during the session during the next 2 hours, and we are very happy to have you here on the show. Hopefully you enjoyed the little video, the clip in the beginning, and maybe for those of you who have never been to Hamburg, it raised your interest to come to Hamburg either as a tourist or maybe even better, or both, to start a business here in Hamburg or together with colleagues from Hamburg. So, Indo-German startup stories. I forgot to introduce myself, sorry. I'm not very important here. I'm the moderator. My name is Stefan Buse. I'm from Hamburg University of Technology, the Deputy Director of the Institute for Technology Innovation Management. Okay, this was long. And I'm happy that I've got the chance here to moderate the session and guide you through the next 2 hours. And I'm very much looking forward to it because, what I said, we not only have great organizers and hosts, but also very, very interesting guests. For the keynote, Professor Peter Kabul, I will introduce him in a couple of minutes. And we have great startup stories. So from India, from Germany, or students or former students from India and Germany who started business here in Germany. Looking forward to it. Just a very brief introduction to the topic from my side. So I told you, so I'm working at Hamburg University of Technology, and at TUHH, abbreviation for this university, we have a couple of international bachelor and master programs. And over the last 15 years since I joined TUHH, we have seen a growing number of international students, and especially a growing number of students from India who are interested in working in Germany and more also to start a business here in Germany. We have set up an international master's program which is focusing on innovation management with a global perspective and entrepreneurship. And Raj, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think right now we have roughly 25,000 students from India studying in Germany. And what I said, the number has been rising over the last decade. And in the beginning, most of them came to Germany to study and to look for a job in a large German company. Later on, and especially over the last 5 years, this has changed. We have a growing number of students, not only from India, also here in Germany, or from other international students, who are now interested to start a business in Germany. And this is great, and this is what we want to discuss today with all the experts. So what are the opportunities? What are the chances? What are support factors, institutions, which help startups or people who want to start a business here, not only for students? And yes, this is what we're going to do, and I'm very happy once again to have all the guests here. And now I would like to ask my dear colleagues and co-organizers to leave the stage, because now I would like to ask Professor Peter Kabul to come here. Hello, Peter. Hello. And I will also leave in a minute, but Peter, I want you to introduce yourself, but as mentioned before, we are very, very happy to have Peter here. Peter, nowadays you are a professor in media, but you have a long track record as an entrepreneur, an impressive track record. Too long to say everything, but I stop here because I want you to introduce yourself and to provide the keynote. Thank you very much for being here and to sharing your experiences and insights to this topic. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation. Hello, you guys out there, wherever you are, Australia, that's quite impressive. But actually, I should start with that. When I was invited a couple of weeks ago for this event, and I accepted it, then I thought, well, this might be one of those last events where we are sitting behind the cam because COVID is separating apart us. Now, if I look actually at the current numbers, when I came here and listened to the radio, then maybe it will be the start of another series of events which will be remote. Anyway, I can tell you we are still alive here over in Germany, even if the media will tell you something different. So I was invited to give a keynote, an introduction for that event, which is headlined with startup stories. And then, well, I can tell you I'm almost 60 years and I have a number of startup stories. I actually can look at startups or at the topic of startups from almost all possible perspectives. I was a founder myself several times. I developed companies I scaled them, as you would say today, from really zero when I opened the door and it was nothing and I had to first buy a chair and a desk, to significant numbers. I sold some of my companies. One I even brought public in the year 98. So I'm a serial entrepreneur, you can say. But then also I have the other perspective of it as an investor. In the year 2011, I started to structurally invest in the Indian startup ecosystem. I will tell you a little bit about that in a moment. But then also there's other perspectives because I experienced really triumphs and successes, but I also experienced defeat and real miserable failure. So I think all the perspectives I have accumulated in me, and I hope I can give you some insights on that. Now, possibly we start really from the beginning. It is I think the turn of the 80s and the 90s of the past century. Sorry for going back in history that far. And that was the time when I was a young person studying media design in Hamburg and knowing that possibly I will never start to work in a company as an employee. And actually, I felt that, and yes, that's actually what happened. I was beside one very little period in my life, never employed in a company. I'm an entrepreneur by habit. I don't know actually what to do else. My wife very often says, well, look, I mean, you're going a little bit older now. Please calm down a little bit and relax, because there's no need for starting new things every other day. And as much as I would like to follow her, I'm not able to. Yeah, so I'm this person who looks around, is really full of curiosity. That's my middle name. My name is Peter Curiosity Kabul. And whatever I did in my life was a function of my curiosity. I'm underlining this very much because many think that entrepreneurship is basically the longing for money, for financial success. But I can tell you, I was never really primarily interested in money. I was always interested in doing something which can, fulfill my curiosity, can change something in the world, can change the life of people in a positive way. And then my experience, fortunately, maybe, was that as I'm really curious, as I'm really interested to do things, to develop things, then I'm not looking at the watch and saying, look, now it's 5 o'clock, maybe time to say the day off. But I was working long hours because I never, suffered from it. I still do not suffer from working long hours. And because I worked long hours, because I was very busy, because I'm possibly not too stupid, then my experience is that money came. Yeah, so it's the opposite. I have the feeling for many of those who call themselves entrepreneurs today, they think actually on the exit of the exit before they stand up in the morning. So actually, it's a model I don't believe in, but maybe also I'm very old-fashioned. You can call me, then it's fine. I can live with that. So that was my experience, that it's really curiosity which drives me. And then I, as I said, I started my first company. It was early in the 90s, last century. I developed this company. I partnered with the wrong people. I mean, at those days, they were not the wrong people, but it turned out that those haven't been the right ones to do a team, to form a team. And that's another learning I would like to convey to you. Actually, if you partner with the wrong wife, then you can divorce. It's very easy. Yeah. So there is this institution of divorce. Actually, if you partner with someone in business, there is no institution like divorce. Especially if you have the wrong investors and you find out after a couple of years, or a couple of months, it's possibly not the right partnership, then it becomes really, really very difficult to get apart. That's the reason why I'm telling you, be really very picky with your partners, because the wrong partner can destroy everything. Or if you are the wrong partner for someone else, then you can destroy the story for him or her. Okay, so then I started a new company because I found out that those have been the wrong partners. I developed it, I brought it public in year 98. It was a real big success, and as already mentioned, people still admire me for that thing, because those days the word startup was actually not there. You had a company and you developed it and you grew it and you tried to get money, and then today there is hundreds and if not thousands of people who want to throw their money at you. Those days this was not the case. You were just alone, like in the desert. You were looking for financials, but there were no one. So we went public as one of the first companies in one of those early growth sectors of the German stock exchange. It went well for quite some time, but then I failed miserably. I had to file insolvency for that nice company which I had founded 10, 12 years earlier, which I developed so nicely that we were employing about 1,200 or something people around the globe, where we were serving customers. But for one reason or another, I don't want to dive too deep into that now, we failed. So this was really horrible. It felt like the most brutal accident can happen to you. And why do I talk about this here, even not seeing those listening to me? I tell you because failure is an integral part of entrepreneurship. If people tell you, yes, I'm only successful, I'm really growing only, and there's no setbacks at all, they are lying. It's simply not the truth. There is failure every day, literally every day, and you can't avoid failure. The only thing you can avoid is that you do the mistakes twice. So therefore, don't shut your eyes on mistakes or failures. Look at it very, very in detail so that you can learn of it and to avoid to do it a second time. Now, going fast forward because time is running a little bit, I'm telling you that in the year 95, I was so desperately looking for programmers, 95 of the last century, obviously. I was so desperate looking for programmers that I followed the invitation of a German-Indian friend who said, look, come to Ahmedabad, there we have plenty of programmers and they will be happy to work for you, come over. So I did this. It was, I think, in December 95 or something like that, when I first visited India, and it was really a shock. Yeah, it was so different that I could really not understand it. So, but anyway, we started that program or the project, and it was also a failure. It was, as it turned out later, way too early. The market was not developed yet, and so the results will not be fine. But anyway, it sparked my interest in India because I had met people who were extremely eager to really also solve problems, to go beyond their limits, and that was the reason why I came back several times, more in a private function and capacity. But later, then in 2008, I invested in my first startup in in India. It was a company which is still around, Ixigo, a travel portal in India, these days quite successful. And as far as I learned from Alok, the founder, one of the founders, they have just filed for an IPO. So I cross fingers that this will work out. The market in India, the stock market obviously, is very, very happy to accept new entrants. So we will see what type of companies will come there and go to the market. So later, I invested from 2011 to today in 15 Indian startups. And I exited of 2 of them quite nicely. I also had to write off a number of them, and I tell you, because I'm so interested in the failures and the non-successes, I tell you in a moment about this. And then I also had 2 different investment hypotheses. The first one in 2007-8, when I invested in Ixigo, and then later in a number of other companies, the idea was Indian companies for Indian consumers or Indian customers. So this was that time until, let's say, 2000, wait, I have to count, 2018 or something, 17, 18, when I was investing in teams who sat in India somewhere, most of them in Delhi or Bangalore or Hyderabad or Chennai, who developed services and products for Indian users. And this was quite interesting and good, working well, but then also many investors also discovered it at the same time. So a lot of money poured in from the US especially, and also from China. And valuations become really crazy high, and I, as a business angel, had to pull off and say, look, this is not the hypothesis I can continue to go. So then I changed, and that is what I'm looking at now, and this is also helping to build the bridge between Hamburg and India and Hamburg. I switched and I went into deep tech, into everything natural language processing. NLP is the abbreviation for that. So why that? Because I found out that there is so many people really working in that area in India who were interested in that new development where AI and language come together, and which makes it happen that machines can interpret what we communicate in natural language and seem to understand what we are intending and so on. So that area I'm in now, and that is an area where Indians serve the world. So where Indian tech talent can sit somewhere in India and really sell to Western demand and clients. This SaaS, software as a service field, developed so nicely in India, and it's so typical for what Indians can really do, because they are really good entrepreneurs coming really from tech and understanding oftenly that tech is not the only thing, but it's the core of the companies they are developing. And this is something where India is really, really unique, maybe, where in Germany and in Western countries, very often business guys start a business, and then later, after a couple of months maybe or years, they find out, oops, possibly we need a product, and we should have someone who can create it. Indians very often start exactly the opposite. They start from a tech-based product, and then they add all the business functions around it. That is what I like very much, and this is also this opportunity you guys in India have to really create something and serve it to the world. Here in Hamburg, especially here where I'm sitting at the digital logistic hub, this is a typical situation, I can say. Typical because we here in Hamburg, it's a harbor city, so we have a lot of this logistics stuff going on. And then if people come from India and they develop their products and companies further here in that hub situation, in that situation which is very well connected to exactly that community of logistics and harbor people, that is, I think, that typical opportunities, typical opportunity you have from India. So I'm not sure how far I'm in my time slot. I have another 3-4 minutes. Okay, so again, you understood possibly already that there is some success, but let me speak about the failures also in the startup ecosystem I invested in, because you can learn from that. And then I think one of the most important things I mentioned already is wrong partnerships. Unfortunately, I have to say that the Indian ecosystem, the startup ecosystem, is quite well, has developed very well in the past 10, 15 years. Obviously, you can see it, so many startups, so many unicorns, and now even IPOs in the NASDAQ and everything. That's nice. But still, one have to say that the entire ecosystem consists not only out of startups, but also on bankers, on investors, on lawyers, and so on and so on. And here we have to say that many of the actors are still unexperienced. So many of the failures of the companies, which I unfortunately had to write off after having invested, failed because of exactly that unexperience. Unexperience, especially on the side of early stage investors. So again, I told you, if you marry someone and you feel it's not the right partnership, you can divorce. The problem is if you have the wrong investor, early stage investor, there is no way to get apart from each other. And that is the reason why I tell you, not everyone in India who has friends on the golf course and wants to show off is the right and appropriate investor for you in your company. Wait, if you have a doubt, then wait. There will be other investors which will be possibly better for you, having the more appropriate motivation for investing in you. And by the way, there is no need, only because that's the fashion of today, that you have to build a startup and have a seed round and an A round and a B round and a C round. The most beautiful company is actually where you don't have any investor. And especially in that fields, when it comes to deep tech and it comes to SaaS and so on, there is not high investments necessary. You don't need a lot of machinery or, I don't know, plants and factories and things like that. It's just you and your chair and actually your computer and then off it goes. If you have, for instance, the opportunity to use GINSEP or other organizations, also the ones here in Hamburg, then maybe also your distribution and your sales can be supported in the Western countries, and you can do it from India and sell here over in the West. So maybe that was a little bit of the stories I can tell you about successes and failures. I'm very happy if you have questions to answer you some of those. I don't know, I should see here once some in the chat, but if not, then maybe you have one or two questions to ask. And yeah, so that's hopefully what was interesting for you guys.
Definitely. Peter, thank you very much for sharing your experiences, your insights with us. Stories as well, yes. Do we have questions? I need my glasses to read them.
How should we market our idea? Should it be something new, or can we now start with yeah, sure. I mean, actually, a new thing. If companies approach me for investment or advice, and then they tell me something and they say, "Look, we do something no one else has ever done," then I'm mostly a little bit suspicious because if something is really great, then it's very likely that someone has tried it. So the idea that you only can do something which never have been tried is, in my opinion, wrong. Sure, there is these type of things, but most of the time this starts not from really that point. No one has ever done this. It mostly develops to something like that. Yeah. Before Google, there have been search already, but Google took it from a new angle, but it was not something which have never been there. So therefore, as I said, I'm mostly a little bit suspicious if someone tells me nobody else is doing it. I rather would also advise you, don't try to pretend it or feel like that. Yeah? Rather always look, where is the competition from I can learn. Yeah, so that's the most important thing here. So competition is nothing wrong. Competition is a good thing because it's a validation in a way that there is something. Yeah, so and then it's just or only that you have to do it better than those competitors in the market. Yeah.
And as we know, competition drives innovation. Next question: what are the most exciting cities, hotspots for innovation and startups in India?
Well, I mean, it's basically everybody knows them. It's Bangalore, and then Delhi, and I like very much Hyderabad. I think Hyderabad is the better Bangalore. It's the Bangalore without the craze. I mean, starting with very simple things. Traffic is much better in Hyderabad than it is in Bangalore, which is not difficult because I think Bangalore has the worst traffic in the world. But also I think, you know, a very interesting combination I see in Hyderabad. It's very good schools, universities, and then also the typical way, the ideal way I feel is that someone directly goes out of the school into one of those large corporates, the Googles, the Amazons, and so on, tries to work there for 2 years and get a little bit experience, and then start something on himself own. So I like Hyderabad very much. I like the interesting atmosphere there in the TUHH, also very interesting structure there. So that is what I like very much. Also, I have to say that in cities like, for instance, Chennai or also smaller cities, you will find better environments and conditions for starting up a company than possibly in Bangalore. There is less competition for good people to hire and all these type of things. And if you need an investor to meet him at 10 Feet Road, or how is it called there at the Starbucks, then you can travel to Hyderabad, to Bangalore and go to the Starbucks and meet the investors there.
That's right. So one more question. What kind of challenges in the Indian innovation startup ecosystem still facing, or are the Indian innovation startup ecosystem facing compared to established ones like in the Silicon Valley or Tel Aviv in Israel?
Yeah, as I said, I mean, it's the experience of all the actors, yeah, of everybody who is working there, not only the startups, also the investors, the lawyers, everyone. So it's still in the development, where in Silicon Valley everything is developed, and Tel Aviv also. I think in Tel Aviv this is the case because it's so relatively small, yeah. And in Silicon Valley it's because it's there for 50 years. So this is something there is no fast track on that. I think experiences you have to make, and it takes time. And you can see, you can observe how it grows already in experience the ecosystem. So on the other hand, if things are not developed yet, this bears a lot of chances, yeah, because the opportunity is that you can develop it, that you can be among those who develop it, that you can find partners, investors, lawyers, bankers, and so on, and especially team members and co-workers and something to develop it. So that does not, if I say it's not developed yet, that does not mean you should leave it and go elsewhere. This simply means that you have to be aware that not everyone has the experience possibly he or she is pretending to have.
Okay, one more question. Sorry, guys, but we are running out of time. So, Peter, I'm Ashwin. Hi, Ashwin. I think we talked a couple of days ago via Zoom. We are also a small deep tech-based consulting company which is already doing well in India. Now we want to expand in Europe. What are the best ways to look for clients in the EU? Maybe a brief answer.
Yeah,
sorry.
Answer. Okay. Yeah. What is the best way? I mean, use LinkedIn, yeah, and look who could make use of your consulting services. I don't know enough about what type of consulting and so on and so on. So I mean, there is so many ways these days, and digital especially, and I think even now in the pandemic and post-pandemic, no one really is expecting you to come by just and be there in person. Even the most conservative Western companies have experienced it, that you can do it online. On the other hand, let me tell you something. I know in India, sales is like you pest someone as long as he cannot withstand anymore. So you call just every day 10 times until this person goes crazy and says, okay, then I pick up the phone and talk to this guy that I get rid of him. This is not an option here in the Western countries, not at all. People really get angry. So you have to find a different way, and it's really it's not starting with the price, yeah. So marketing in India very often starts with the percentage sign. That's not marketing. In Europe, in the Western countries, you really have to convince people about what you are doing, and then they will ask, okay, what is the price for it? And then they will possibly come up and say, okay, maybe we should bargain here a little bit, or come together. That's a little bit different in India, and I know that many of Indians try to sell with this, Brechstange, with the force of a tank or something, but that's not working over here.
Sorry, guys, but we really have to stop here. I think we could talk for hours and hours, and there would be more and more insights. And Peter, thank you very much for sharing the insight with you. Perfect to have such a successful serial entrepreneur here in this event. And maybe just a suggestion, those of you those questions we couldn't answer, just send us an email with the questions and we try to find answers for you. Yeah?
Great.
Thank you very much,
for the
Peter.
invitation. Have a good day and a good conference here. Yeah. Bye.
Thank
Thanks.
you very much, Peter. So now we come to the next part of the event today. I would like to ask Julian Six. Julian is working for GINSEP, the German Indian startup exchange program. Sorry, difficult name. And GINSEP is also one of the organizers of the event today. And Julian, later on, he's also on the panel. He will talk about GINSEP, but what we are interested right now is real Indo-German startup stories. And I would like to ask the two startups to the show, Anand and Yannick, Ragesh. So, I hand over to Jan because he is the moderator of the session now, and I'm very much interested in the discussion here, in the interviews. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stefan.
Sorry. Sorry that I have to interrupt. Because I forgot to mention in the beginning, so not that you're surprised or wondering that we are sitting here without mask and not so much distance. Everybody is vaccinated or tested here, so there's no threat, just to inform you, just to avoid any kind of shitstorm or something later on. So everything is checked and clear here. Okay, sorry.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Yeah, just hand over the mic to them. Also, warm welcome from my side here from Hamburg. I'm really excited about the session today, and maybe a few words also about GINSEP. I don't want to dive too deep into it because later on in the panel, I guess I'll have some more time also to share some insights there. But just a few lines about this. So GINSEP, the German Indian Startup Exchange Program, exists. It's a platform that exists for roughly 4 years now to support Indian startups on the way to Germany and German startups on the way to India. And it's an open platform for all players to come together. We have more than 170 organizations now being part of it that support the individual startup with their expertise. We have a GINSEP ambassador network, so individual experts that also help out. Peter Kabul is also one of the ambassadors. Lili Ong is also one of the ambassadors. So everyone who is really out there and can bring in their expertise in both India and Germany actually is invited to be part of GINSEP, but also, of course, might be already a part of the network there. So we really want to support startups in that way by being an open platform and connecting them and providing access to the individual startups. We are funded by the Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs. And just for the context, so we work on a federal level. So we work on a level throughout Germany and throughout India. We do not have a regional focus, but of course, very importantly, we work with partners in the individual regions. So today is one perfect example for that. That we're focusing on Hamburg and also focusing on 2 startup stories that are based out of Hamburg to shed some more light into what are the opportunities over here and also the local partners over here. During the panel, we hear more about that. And to really hear from the individual startups what is the potential, but also what are the challenges and how to overcome them. That's why I'm really happy to have now these 2 startups here, or basically 3 founders, 2 co-founders and 1 founders here. And the way I would like to do it is like I briefly ask you about what you're doing and basically your personal story, because I think the important thing about today is to learn from your experience and also get some inspiration for other founders or potential founders that are in Hamburg already, but of course also other entrepreneurs or future entrepreneurs that are in India at this point and are looking to expand to Germany or also looking to set up a company over here. So let me start with you, Rakesh Ravi, here first. Thank you so much for joining. Last week we met already during the India Week here in Hamburg. You are in Hamburg for roughly 10 years now, I think, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And you're originally from Kerala.
That's right.
And you stayed at different multiple locations all over the world, and you ended up in Hamburg. So what is your story before you actually founded My Bunker? So maybe first a few lines about your personal story, and then a little bit about My Bunkers as well.
Right. It's clear, right? Yes, I have a shipping background. I sailed for 11 years. I come from a small place called Kerala, southwest coast of India, quite green, and just got out of that and went sailing. And about 10 years ago, I moved to Germany, just for personal reason, and then got into something what in shipping world we call a shore job. It's a job out of the sea. And that was into ships fuel oil trading. I worked for a company called OW Bunkers, but then went bust a few years ago. And then 5 years ago, I founded my own small brokerage firm. And then from there arose the idea of My Bunkers, which is to digitalize and help in energy transition of the maritime fueling industry. And therefore a startup which looks into it, because currently the marine fuel industry is quite scattered. Any information, like if you want to get a price of oil, if you have a ship and then you want to buy diesel or the fuel for the ship, it's nothing clear. And in order to get a price, you need to call 5-6 people. And then I want to make it, simplify it, and therefore the startup. So we are live since 3 years. Yep.
Yeah, and how's that going? So you decided that Hamburg is the best place for that. I mean, let's say also what a coincidence. You have this, sailing background from the maritime field, and then also you end up in Hamburg. Of course, I think in Hamburg, in Germany, there's no better place for that business.
Absolutely. I mean, the reason why I was in Hamburg is, of course, coincidence. But then why I stayed is because, of course, it's so strategically close. I mean, most of the shipping customers, when it comes to shipping, they're around, of course, Copenhagen, Rotterdam, Antwerp, and Hamburg sits right in between. And, of course, you got a flight out to London as well. So it's quite easy geographically. And of course, there's a vibrant maritime community here for centuries. So you just get along much easier.
Wonderful, cool. So before I'll ask you a little bit more about all that, before we find out a little bit more about your journey and your experience in really setting it up, I want to hand over to Janek Strobeck, one of the co-founders from My Active Lab. And you are also, you studied here together with Atman Jain, and you studied together, and then you co-founded, or you founded your company also with a third person, I've learned in the morning.
Yes.
And
Exactly.
maybe can you tell us a little bit about first your journey and how you found each other and then decided to start up?
Oh yeah, of course. So I know Atman from the Technical University of Hamburg. We studied in the same program, and I went for a semester abroad to Denmark, and I wrote my master thesis about a startup idea, the validation of a startup idea, and I want to do the next step. So basically what I tried out there theoretically, I also want to transfer to the real world. And it happens that also Atman finished his studies, and I know we were friends first and founders second, so we became friends. And I know also that we could work together pretty well because we had similar classes at uni, and I know that his work ethic and mine work along. And it was for me just a natural choice to ask him. To be honest, I couldn't imagine anyone else I've met so far to start a company with. And from the original idea that happened during my master thesis, we by now pivoted, and we got the third co-founder, Miri, on board, which brings some more in-depth expertise in the field that we are building our company in. I would say I never regret the decision to ask Atman. I think that's what we've heard earlier. I think you need to choose your partners well, and I think with Atman, that was the very, very lucky pick. So.
Great, but it was clear from you that you wanted to become an entrepreneur?
Not really. To be honest, it's what I like, or what I noticed to do. I like to build stuff, like build something from the ground that people like using. So I would say I'm more a product person than a strict entrepreneur. But I studied business in my bachelor degree, and then I worked a few years. And this was when I came in touch with the whole digital ecosystem for the first time and the entrepreneurship part of it. And I was pushing towards the direction of M&A and finance. And then I noticed, okay, I like people more than numbers and products more than numbers. And that's when I decided I study in my master's degree then innovation and technology management and entrepreneurship. But to be it was never my goal to be an entrepreneur. My goal was to build things that people like using.
Great. So really have to like what you're doing. And during your masters, that is when you met Atman, right?
Yes, exactly.
And why Hamburg? Are you from Hamburg, or is it why? Yeah. Or why did you stay here then?
Yeah. So the reason why Hamburg is pretty practical. So I was deciding between Aachen and the Technical University of Hamburg, and my girlfriend said to me, "Okay, I'm joining you in Hamburg, but I'm not coming to Aachen with you." So it was more practical reasons why I ended up here.
I'm from Aachen, right? So
I didn't know that.
No, but I agree there.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, interesting. So, and then it seems to be a good environment for you and your business. So that's why you stayed here. My active labs, you didn't share too much about this yet. So what do you really do?
So maybe Atman can explain what we do a bit better.
Okay, then I ask Atman first about your journey and the approach. You're from Ahmedabad, you're from Gujarat.
Yes.
And you decided to come to Hamburg to do your masters, right?
That's correct, yeah.
And did you have like this entrepreneurial mindset before, or was it clear for you that you wanted to start up a company?
Well, I always love setting something up and building products. I think that's a passion I share with my co-founder Yannick. And eventually, I just realized job is not for me. So either ways, wherever I go, that's where I always want to end up. So yes, there is a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit there, if that's what we want to call it. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so it is it's not your first startup.
No, it is my first.
Or you?
It definitely is my first startup, fresh out of college. So first startup, but I always knew that this is how I would want to be, and this is where I thrive in, basically. You know, I get bored very easily, so I constantly need to put out fires on an everyday basis to sustain. So that's that is definitely an essence of entrepreneurship, in my opinion.
And back in India, did you think that Germany or Hamburg, when you decided to go for that master's, did you think that that would also be a good environment for you to found a company and build something here, or didn't you even think about that at that
back
point?
then I did not think about it. Like I said, I'm like fresh out of college, so did my bachelor's in ICT engineering actually, and I love tech, but it never seemed enough. So I was wanted to explore multidisciplinary environments, which is where I came across the master's program in innovation management, and that basically decided my choice to come to Hamburg. So
okay, wonderful. And this is where you met over here inside the company.
Yeah.
Now to my active lab. So what do you really do?
So we interpret blood results for vegans and vegetarians initially, but eventually for everybody who is interested in optimizing their health and nutrition lifestyle. So we start with interpreting blood reports and recommending course of actions in order to improve the blood values. So we have several other features designed in order for you to incorporate those recommended actions into your plan until the next blood test, and then you can like constantly. It's a cycle you continue over 3 months. So you do the blood test, you sort of get it analyzed, you upload your blood reports, you get them interpreted by us. You receive some recommended courses of action to have them optimized based on your lifestyle. And then we have an action plan functionality where you can sort of add recommended actions to the plan, create a plan of your own, and integrate it into your existing lifestyle. And for users who not well versed with the idea of blood testing, we also have a quiz designed within the app where you can just input everything. You can input your supplementation intake, your workouts, whatever you do, your food habits. So it's a short questionnaire designed, and you can input all of it and find out what exactly you should get tested on.
Okay, with innovation management, I can totally imagine that, you building this product, but it sounds still very, very specific, and sounds that you also need quite some, inside information about, about the medical field and what is really needed and what can be done. So, how did you come across that idea? Is it really like that you found that, okay, there's a requirement because you yourself thought, oh, that would be handy, to use, or how did you come up with that?
I mean, so Yannick wrote his thesis, so I think it's better if he elaborates on this.
Yeah, so it all started off with a friend telling me that he went to the doctor, not because he's sick, but he was unsure about his micronutrient status, because he want to make sure he's supplied with all the important micronutrients. And based on this, in my master thesis, I looked at microsampling. So what can you measure with a small amount of blood? And there's this great new technology from the States, and there you have like a little, it's where we started off, right? We wanted to send out those blood testing kits so people can test at home. And the new technology, it draws capillary blood. It looks like a golf ball. You press a button, and it sucks your capillary blood, and you send it to the lab, and it gets analyzed. So this was the starting point, this technology, right? Because we studied technology management, and I evaluated the potential of this technology and how you can actually turn this into a feasible business. But then we looked at it and said, okay, this is nothing without the right software. And we said, okay, we call it frugal pivot. It's a term I believe we coined. And we said, okay, we just cut out where we don't actually deliver the value, because we didn't develop this blood test kit. We are not the lab who's analyzing it. What we actually do in the end is the software. So we said, no matter where the blood test results are coming from, we analyze it for you. And in Germany, still the gold standard is that you go to the doctor, or you go to the direct lab or Heilpraktiker, and you get those blood test results. And no one has any idea what it means. It's just the doctor looks at it and tells you okay or not okay. And we want you to get more out of this blood test result with our software.
Interesting. And when did you found it exactly?
So officially 2 weeks ago, we set up the GmbH.
Wow.
So very fresh, but we developed the app. So it will be an app already for 5 months. So it will be hopefully live, we cross the fingers, end of the month in the App Store and in the Android Play Store as well.
Okay, by 1st of December, people can download your app.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Here in Germany.
And we developed, so from a strategic point of view, we target the German-speaking region first with the German version, and then later we set up an English version as well, and target the broader Western market, but also India as a potential market is very interesting for us.
This is, of course, not a coincidence. Why? Because you have some knowledge of the Indian market also with your co-founder, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And before we ask, I want to ask you a little bit about also funding and some money that you got. I want to ask more about maybe to Indians here about the experience of being an Indian founder or Indian co-founder over here. How was that to start up? What were the experiences here? Maybe Ravi, we start with you.
Well, I had the experience here founding my own brokerage firm. It's very easy. It's like going to a coffee shop and ordering a coffee. Founding the company is the easiest thing you can do here. Go to a notary, get your company registered, and you get an official bank account. And here there is, of course, as he mentioned, there is a GmbH version, and of course you don't need that kind of capital either. I think 12,500 euros is what you need. But you can also start your company with €1. So starting the company is very easy. But of course, we were discussing earlier, focus on the product first, what you're trying to do. And then if you have a way to make it work, then the rest of it comes easy.
And was it, do you think it was easier for you because you were here already, so you were registered, you had your Anmeldung, right? So these are usually some struggles that foreigners have over here. You need to get registered, then you need to wait for your tax ID, then you need that in order to open bank accounts, and all these kind of very practical things are many times challenges for foreigners that really want to start up and settle quickly and get started. But that helped you because you were staying here already, right? So it's not that you just came in and needed to really get going, and you had a valid visa, you were staying here and could do that and had all the, let's say, structures in place already.
Absolutely. If you want to open a company, you have to be either a permanent resident here or a citizen or know someone who has it. But for guys who are new, starting new, I wish I had met this lady, Lee. She works for Hamburg Invest, and for me, even I was a bit too late meeting her. But then what she does is brilliant, remarkable. I mean, I'm getting a lot more networking contacts through her. But then for guys who are starting out new, I would recommend getting in touch with her, because she helps out doing those initial stage information, how where to go, whose doors to knock on, all of that. I recommend her completely in that.
Okay, wonderful. So that brings us to that topic of support mechanism and supporters. Before I hop on that, I would like to ask Atman about starting up over here. How was it for you? Were you really like relieved, also happy that you have this German co-founder, because you thought like, well, thank God there's someone, you know, fluent in German who can do all these, you know, structured work there, because you felt like, okay, this is nothing I could have done? Or did you think like, well, actually being a foreigner over here, it didn't limit me much, because you could also find your way through that bureaucratic journey?
No, it's definitely a blessing for sure. So it's for anybody who is aiming to start their own business and doesn't speak the local language, German. It's going to slow down the process. It's not going to be impossible for you. It's just going to be slower than usual. So certainly having somebody who's fluent in German on the legal terms. So because even if you're speaking German, it's the same thing. Legal terms are legal terms, and they take you some getting used to. Having said that, there's if you take the example of drafting a contract, right? There's the English translations available. You can always refer to them. You reach out to notary. You can always find notaries where they speak in English. You can arrange for a translator. So there's enough facilities, and the infrastructure around you is accommodating enough to sort of get that done. But definitely it's the quickest. If you do know German, if everything's working out for you, that's the quickest route. And that's why having a co-founder that speaks fluent German definitely helps.
Okay, so, and now, what were the supporters that you used in your environment? Was it mainly your personal network, and or also some public institutions, organizations that help you to guide your way, or also to set up the company? What were the ones that you benefited the most from?
I mean, it's been a combination of institutions, right? So IHK has been like IHK is Industry und Handelskammer, which is basically chambers of commerce over here, has been really helpful. So we just reached out to them, wrote an email because I was a bit skeptical about my living situation. If I'm not the Geschäftsführer, whether I should be one, and they are happy to help, and they answer all your queries, redirect you to all your sources. So that's been really helpful. There have been some friends we made during our masters. Reaching out to them has been really helpful because one of their father was notary, so they guided us on whether to go with the sample protocol, muster protocol, or should we just sort of like design a new contract for us, which is more catered to our. So we've received recommendations from all bases. We were also part of this accelerator program. We still are, called Gateway 49. Um, and the network, so we had access to the network of partners as well, and a couple of mentors from there. So any issues we had in any areas were sort of definitely we definitely got all the help from them. So it's been a combination of institutions, but yeah, for sure.
And that company in Hamburg or also beyond? Did you look beyond for further support, or were there enough here in Hamburg itself?
So in Hamburg itself, there have been enough. So so our accelerator program is actually from Lübeck. So it's not from Hamburg. So Schleswig-Holstein, I would say for sure. But we never had the need to sort of reach out beyond.
Also, in my experience, it's so for me. Let's say I'll talk about a startup that is coming from India to Germany. For me, from GINSEP, we work nationwide. So at the end of the day, it's like, well, wherever you set up, it's all good, right? And I have to be also impartial. But I think it also helps that there is a competition between the regions, because it makes them, also trying to improve and offer a more attractive program, right? Every region is trying to attract the investors and the startups, right, to set up their office over here. So I think that it's good that there are different programs out there also that are competing a little bit. So that makes it more attractive and better. Better of an offer for the startups. So you also looked a little bit beyond the Hamburg borders. I've heard also that you got like a funding start from outside of Hamburg, right? Is that right? So is there any other like support mechanism that you were missing? Was there something where you said like, well, this should have been there and we needed it so badly, but for some reason maybe no one could provide us with, they provided us with some theoretical things, but practically it didn't work out. Was there something that was really missing on your way, or did you feel like, well, all the enablers or support mechanisms are really in place here?
Um, Okay, so when we do reach out to people, I think that I found out that to be the solution to everything, because it's often daunting when you don't speak fluently. When you don't speak German fluently, it's often daunting to reach out to people. But eventually, that's been the solution to everything. You just have to reach out, and they do help. So uh, at the moment, I cannot think of an opportunity where we were seeking something that we did not get. So.
Okay, wonderful. The same to you, Rabi. You said you wished you had met Liliong earlier, so that implies a little. Am I right that there was some let's say network or some information was missing, and it was important for you to have these supporters around? How was it for you?
Absolutely. When you're starting out, you really don't know, okay, even which office to go for registering your company.
Of course.
And then should we hire a lawyer to define our shareholders' contract? So fine details such as that, it's supposed to be very easy. And then if you meet somebody like Lee, who works for Hamburg Invest, it gets much easier. And then, of course, there's always this fear. What if you do wrong? As earlier we heard in the talk, there's nothing worse than having a wrong partner in the contract or how it is framed. So you don't want to do those obvious mistakes. So you get a confidence when somebody is out there, when you get the feeling that they're out there to help you, as there are, I would say, it's a sorry state sometimes, sharks who want to come pretend help you, and then somehow they want a piece of pie of your company. And then
So that happened to you as well?
no, I was lucky not to not to get there, but easy to spot them. they all sound like consultants, so to say. They say they are out there to help your company accelerate and even validate your ideas and so on. So I would just say, keep an eye, just have your normal due diligence, and not to just dive into people who are pretending to help. But therefore, people who have no interest in equity of your company can be considered slightly safe.
Okay, I see, I see. So you should, well, even if you start up your company and you haven't done it before, so that might be also, well, you're rather inexperienced, right? So you need to try it out. And as we heard from Peter Kabel earlier, of course you have to try it and you have to fail. It's part of it. It's you know, you have to. You have to. So so you say like, okay, beware. You have to be, you know, always see on which terms or what the counterpart is also offering. To make sure that really to find the right partners also that go, you know, that can accompany you on this way.
My biggest difficulty here, after starting the company, I mean, I met my co-founders. I have 3 other co-founders in the company too at another startup event. So I was lucky; it was just a coincidence. I met them there, and then they had the interest, Andy and Kai. Yeah, we hit it off straight away, and then within a few months we became co-founding partners here. But our biggest struggle has been the funding forward. Maritime ecosystem is rather small here, and there are not enough seed funders going around. There are a few accelerators, but not enough. I think more can be done on that seed funding and initial stage funding, and then how those guys would like to access future maritime startups.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, that is also a message that you need to that we need to communicate to the other supporters here. Maybe we can address it also in the panel that we're starting in some 5-10 minutes. Really important point there. And your team, your co-founding team, is that international? Or is that a local team?
Yeah, all of them are based here. One is an Austrian, Andy is Austrian, and the rest are Germans. And I'm the only Indian in the team.
So basically, both of the startups sitting here are Indo-German or German-speaking startups. And when it comes to fundraising or let's say business development or sales also, so all the, let's say, communicating and selling your company, networking, how was your experience as an Indian over there? Is it easier to, let's say, well, send the German there to speak German, or is it also well adding value to do that as an Indian, as a foreigner who also, let's say, has a let's say some global exposure as well, right? So what was your experience there, personally, and also for your company, of course?
Of course, you're in a foreign country, and then if you want to feel trusted and validated, either you should know the local culture. That means you should be born here. But if you're not, in order to get a quicker way, it's nice to have a local guy on the team. And not just, I mean, I'm not just saying just pick any random German-speaking guy. Must have a certain function in your team too. But then having one helps build the trust. And I wouldn't think of it as wrongly. I think I would do the same if I'm going to India, and if I come from another country. I would rather partner with someone local who, of course, needs to have a function in your team to build and know the cultural not to do. Of course, there are small differences, small nuances. Every person without the direct cultural knowledge makes. And then as an Indian, I should also be aware of it, even if I've been here 10 years. Like when not to shake hands and when not to smile and when not to ask too many questions. And so that, of course, helps. And I'm very happy, like Altman and Yannick has got that figured out. And me too, I'm very happy with my co-founders as well.
Wonderful. Yeah. Actually, it goes really in line with the experience that we have at GINSEP, that the most successful actually startups or projects are really corporations, right? So it's like it can be between startups from Germany and India, but or also international founder teams, right? So it's really interesting because I really believe, like, whether you access the Indian market, well, it's great, or it's important to have a local there on board who understands the language and everything, local culture better, but also, of course, incoming, right? To have Germans on board with the network, with the understanding, so it helps, and then you have really this diverse founding team that really helps you. The same question about communication or sales, business development, fundraising. Yannick and Atman, to you, maybe Yannick. How was that? Do you think it was more easier for you to do that rather than, let's say, sending Atman to one of these meetings? Did you have that discussion internally that you said, like, you know what, I think I should show up, or you should go, or definitely together?
We always showed up as a team. We are a diverse team, with me being from Germany, Atman from India, and Miri as let's say she studies nutritional medicine, and she's a woman, and we all have our own roles in the team. And I think just being diverse maybe helps a little bit there, but we never considered just put Miri out there, or put me out there, or put Atman out there. We always think it's like fundraising, or like it's always a team effort. And because initially they don't buy your idea, or they don't buy your product, they buy the team. So what really helps is we showed up there together, and that's how we could convince people to invest in our team, basically.
Well, it sounds like really also the most progressive or diverse team. If you have, right, you have an international team, you have a female founder on board as well, or 2 male and 1 female founder. So I think that is also a great mix, and really convincing now as a team. So to really have that diverse team in place. Looking at the time, we have a very few minutes left, and I see there's a questions as well. You mentioned Ali from Hamburg, or maybe Lili, I think, from Hamburg Invest, to get some more information for founders who are relatively new or not citizens of Hamburg. Can you share her full name and how to get in touch with her? Of course, Lili will be on the panel here, and all the contact information will be shared, so feel free to reach out to the respective organizations there. Of course, now it's your chance also to ask some more questions if you want. And I would like to ask you, looking at the time, some final recommendations. What is there for students out there, or other people that are thinking of founding in India, or other potential founders that are currently in India, why they should come to Hamburg, what they should really look out for, and maybe also particularly because you founded during your studies or right after your studies, a message for the students out there, what they should be looking out for, what they should do or should not do. So some final message from each of you I would like to hear.
Maybe I can start. So what I really think is a benefit from Germany over other places is for the initial seed stage of a startup, or pre-seed, where you don't have money, you don't have the network, that there are institutions in place and also money in place here that helps you get this thing at least out of the ground. Because for example, we haven't had to give away equity yet. So it's we bootstrapped, and we got some public funding, and I think this makes what it's really worth to come to Germany and try this out, because at least my feeling is that everyone was here welcome with open arms. And for example, with the situation with Atman, there is an institution called Welcome Center for especially those cases. And the name Welcome Center is not just like a show, right? They really,
it really works.
They really need talent here, and they are also support talent.
Okay, great. That is motivating. Atman.
Um, so definitely for students, right? When they're arriving here, it's now getting to a point where a lot of TUs, technical universities and universities have this incubation centers or some form of an entrepreneurial initiative going on. So definitely look out for those, and also look out for people who you can sort of partner with, and amongst your friends or otherwise, people you can partner with, because trust is the most important thing. And when you do have those, complementary skills is of course a plus. But yeah, that would definitely be something.
Okay, wonderful. So you totally recommend also for fellow Indians to look at Germany to study, and with
Yeah,
with the perspective of also finding your co-founders here and setting up a business.
definitely, definitely.
Wonderful. Really, really great to hear that.
Yeah.
Some final words, Ravi.
Um, yes, my observation 10 years ago to now, Hamburg has become really international. You can observe that from tourist signs, where they're both in English and in German. So don't let German as a language hinder you. You can get along your initial period without speaking German. Hamburg is getting quite international, and then there are a lot more international crowd. You can hear them in pubs and places, public spaces, a lot more English floating around. So don't be afraid. Once you get your head sorted, don't just come around for, hey, I want to start up a company and let's go to Germany. Get your ideas sorted, get your head sorted. And once you have that clear path, hey, try it. And rather try and fail than not having tried at all.
Wonderful, because actually German language is one of the main, actually always one of the aspects that people point out, say like, well, the language is really, really a challenge, and maybe I should have also asked you earlier to what extent it was a challenge. But great to hear it from you that you say like, well, you've been here for years, and of course important to understand some German, but it shouldn't hinder you. You definitely get along also without, particularly in places like
Yeah.
Hamburg.
And don't let the cliches run you. Germans are actually funny people, so you will get to.
Oh, thanks so much for having that. Our time is up. We exceeded already. I see there's another question. Do we have such a session in Munich? Well, I think that's a question for me. Not planned at this point, but I'll take this away, and maybe we can organize something similarly in Munich as well. Another question: what was your preference while looking for co-founder? Maybe. Maybe I don't think we have time to look into that. Okay, I get the sign over here. Maybe you want to reach out to Atman, Yannick, and Ravi also through LinkedIn and ask that question directly to them. I'm very sure they're there to help you out, and of course also feel free to reach out to me. Also, I guess later on the other panelists that will be here. So now Stefan is coming back, and thank you guys so much. It's been really, really nice talking to you, and I find it really inspiring to hear really these stories from the ground. Catch you later.
Yes, also from my side. Thank you very much. Julian, thank you very much.
Shall I stay here, or do I? Okay,
I
I'm
think you
staying.
have to move to the sofa.
Okay.
But once again, thanks for these really encouraging examples, and hopefully many of you who are listening and following this event now feel encouraged to start up a business here in Hamburg or Munich, no, preferably Hamburg. Before we move on to the enabler panel, just one last word. I always knew that Hamburg offers a lot of support and help for startups, as we have already heard. But what I didn't know was that, all these smart, sympathetic, and beautiful women in Hamburg are another reason, regional factors, so that startups come to Hamburg. Maybe you should promote it, even more in future. It seems to be a competitive advantage of Hamburg. Good, but now we are coming to the enabler panel, which is moderated by my dear colleague, Professor Rajneesh Tiwari. Rajneesh, he just recently became a full professor at Fresenius University of Applied Sciences here in Hamburg. We have been working together for a long, long time. We have done research together with a focus on India, innovation management in India. Rajneesh, he's also heading the German-Indian Roundtable here in Hamburg, and it's my pleasure to support him in this. And so he's a profound expert on different areas, including, of course, innovation management and entrepreneurship. And welcome, and I hand over the micro to you. Looking forward to it.
Thank you, Stefan. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends and dear colleagues here, it's my pleasure to welcome you to this event from the side of the India Week Hamburg. This is one of the concluding events of the India Week Hamburg. And it's my pleasure to be here for a very wonderful event, because not just as an organizer, but I have been really enjoying this event so far. I have learned so many new things. And as Stefan just mentioned, at German-Indian Roundtable Hamburg, at my work in the TUHH Hamburg, or now at the Fresenius, we have always tried to intensify our support for collaboration between India and Germany, so that like this entrepreneurial spirit that came out in the talk of Julian just a few minutes back of our both countries, it can be channelized into an innovative outlet, so that products, technologies, business models, solutions come up that are resource savvy, that are that fulfill the criteria of affordable green excellence. And I think there has never been a greater potential for this in the past than it is today. And this morning it was mentioned that now we have about 25,000 students from India. When I came to Hamburg in 1998, there were 600 Indian students in whole Germany. Today we have that many number just in Hamburg. So there is a lot of potential. There are many people with interesting ideas, with the capabilities and with the connection. And we have heard some of them. And I think it's our privilege today that we also have the enablers sitting around here, because we have also heard from Peter Kabul this morning that the ecosystem plays a very important role, especially when we are talking about Indian students or any international student, or in fact even domestic students who want to start their own ventures. They need some support. They need financing. They need some support in dealing with, let's say, like regulatory challenges that come up almost necessarily. So it's my pleasure, my privilege to have amongst us today 3 enablers in the Hamburg or Indo-German settings who deal with these startups in their day-to-day life. I welcome Lily Ong from Hamburg Invest, who has already been mentioned for the great support, fantastic support that she has enabled. Amongst us, Julian Six, who is leading the GINSEP program supported by the federal government of Germany, and Johannes Berg, who is the managing director of Digital Hub Logistics. So first of all, a very warm welcome. Thank you for being here. And may I request you to kindly introduce yourself briefly?
Thank you, Julian. Thank you, Raj. And good morning from my side. Yes, I'm Johannes Berg. I'm the managing director of the Digital Hub Logistics. And in that function, I'm, so to say, an enabler for everybody who wishes to take a few steps into the logistical innovation ecosystem to push for product, process, or business model innovations along the logistical supply chain. And we do this here in Hamburg, but we have an open heart to the world, so to say, and everybody who wishes to have a safe anchorage for those innovations is always welcome here in Hamburg in the Digital Hub Logistics.
Thanks. Yes, I'm Lily, and I'm working for the Hamburg Invest. Hamburg Invest is the official investment board of the city of Hamburg. We help international companies to set up their base here in Hamburg by providing all sort of services. We give free consultations about company formations, visa inquiries, site selections, as well as local business information. At the same time, we promote Hamburg as an innovative location, as a leading trading hub, as well as hotspots for startups. I was born in Malaysia. I work and I live in Singapore before I moved to Hamburg, and I have been living here for the past 18 years. And also, I have been working for Hamburg Invest that long. I'm currently the project director for international investment for the region South Asia with focus in India and Southeast Asia with focus of Singapore.
Yeah, thanks, Raj. I introduced myself earlier already briefly and talked about GINSEP, so maybe just in 2-3 lines. I'm Julian, so I'm based out of Berlin with GINSEP, German Startup Exchange Program, active Germany-wide here, and so I'm in that role now since almost 3.5 years, and before that I lived in India for roughly 5 years and was working in different projects there as well. And now I'm really excited to support German startups on the way to India and Indian startups to come over here, and also motivate more and more students to come here. And it's great to see them starting up, and really great to see so much more activities happening in the Indo-German context. That is definitely much more than when I started with my work in India close to 10 years ago. Yeah, so it's really great to see.
Yeah, Julian, then we remain with you. And I was doing some research in this year. We wrote a report for BMBF about the innovation activities going on in India. And we saw that the startup scene in India has become really dynamic in the previous few years. And it's not just about the unicorn companies, that number which has been shooting up. India has emerged, the estimates vary, but like the 3rd or the 4th largest startup ecosystem around the world. And you as the team lead or project lead for GINSEP, what is your experience? What are the opportunities that are arising in the landscape of Indian startup systems? And where do you see the potential for India and Germany to collaborate?
I think, well, absolutely. I think anyone who has been to India and has been to these metros, but also smaller, vibrant cities there, or doing business in India, sees and knows the or has experienced the passion, and not only the passion, but also this creativity, this innovation mindset, and also the focus on to do something, to really do something and try it out. So more of, let's say, the startup mindset that we usually think of, what is the US, the American mindset, that is much more common in India. Also to try something out, no matter what, very passionately. Of course, then also really many talented people. We have great universities, so you have many entrepreneurs around. And some people also tell me, and I think that makes perfect sense to me, because startup is all about trying out and failing, as we know, right? And in India, they say, well, there's so many things around you in everyday life that don't work, right? So you have to find a solution. You are used to things that are not in place and do not work seamlessly, right? So that helps you to be helps you in an entrepreneurial mindset. Rather than, or on the contrary, you have then in the opposite, you have in Germany, well, things are in place. We like to have our things in place. Let's say rather conservative, rather old school, perfectionistic, right? So trying out and failing is not really, let's say, doesn't really go really well in line with the German cultural mindset. Of course, both of the approaches also have the advantages, and this is why I think it's a great match to have like this innovation driven thinking approach of really doing something, going out there. In India, sometimes doing the second step before the first, but the Germans very risk averse, not doing the steps at all because they want to be really certain and sure that it is the right step. So I think this can be a great combination. Then of course also digital solutions from India, where they're really progressive and advanced. That is exactly what is missing over here. But maybe then the German engineering and the qualities of that combined with the Indian digital solutions is also a perfect solution. So I really think there's lots of potential in the startup field, but also matching startups and corporates there.
So, like you say, the role of cultural uncertainty avoidance, for instance, in Germany can sometimes also hinder innovations, but it can also provide some very basic, let's say, safety mechanisms for innovations. And in India, there is a trend, or at least a high willingness to try out things. But also the market has so many things, so many challenges that you need to master, because it's an unsaturated market. There are so many challenges which can be turned into opportunities. So probably that is the fundament.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then also how diverse the Indian market is, right? So it's not a homogeneous country or market at all in India. So, well, you have different states in India, meaning also different cultures, and also kind of different ecosystems, right? We heard already Bangalore is completely different from smaller Indian places, tier 2 cities, and definitely one should not overlook these cities. There are these upcoming places like Indore, where Germans won't even know where to place these, locate these cities. That should be really on the radar to also see, you know, for the next entrepreneur that could also come to Germany, for definitely. So it really goes beyond the metros in India as well.
And at the before I go to Lily and Johannes, one more question about the trends at the national level. Can you tell us, are there many startup partnerships between India and Germany, and who is typically like collaborating with Germany from India?
Yes, we see trends. We at GINSEP are sector agnostic. So basically, whoever is active can also, you know, is welcome to reach out to us. Having said that, we have some focal areas based on the startup activities, right? So, and what makes sense is industrial IoT. We have many solutions or many startups with solutions in that field. Then health, of course, right now, particularly mobility or transportation in general, that is there. But so these are the main areas. But we see also more and more startups that are really active in social enterprises, or also impact startups. So that is also a big field, and that is, of course, across these sectors, across mobility and health. But I guess industrial IoT, I would say, is one of the really booming one. Of course, logistics and robotics and these things also come under that.
Very interesting. And Lily, if I might come back to you now, do you have similar trends in Hamburg, or do you observe something different from what is happening at the national level?
Definitely, Raj. Maybe I'll just give you a little bit introductions about our landscape and who are the Indian companies that are currently based in Hamburg. So currently we have around 60 Indian companies based in Hamburg. And we see the increased numbers of startups coming in during the past 5 years. So those 60 companies are ranging from big corporations like Tata, Gujarat Fluorochemicals, to TKMs, to some SMEs like global trading companies, as well as we do have around 9 startups currently based in Hamburg. Those startups are usually offering their digital solutions to their customers here. So this is what India has been doing very great. And I must say that India is no longer just a country that is actually that is a great importer for basmati rice, for spices or tea, but also tech. And we have to reimagine the landscape, the tech landscape. And I see that there are lots of collaborations opportunities. And maybe later I can give some introductions about what are the landscapes in Hamburg, what matches to India. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Lily. And now I come to Johannes. It has already been mentioned, digital tech, digital transformation is one of the core characteristics of Indian startups right now. You are the managing director of Digital Hub Logistics. Do you see some similar trends, or do you have some Indian startups in your logistics hub here?
Yes, Raj, it's unfortunately I can only speak indeed for logistics and supply chain. So for one very dedicated ecosystem in Hamburg. I counted earlier on, we have at the moment 62 startups along the logistical value chain residing here at the Digital Hub. And out of these 62, 6 have Indian team members, Indian employees. So if you may say so, 10% of the startups here in the Digital Hub Logistics have some way or another a link to India. We've also seen one Indian startup in the container management field, so rather the maritime logistics sector, from India really coming to the hub and saying, hey, we want to grow the team here, we want to grow out of Hamburg into Germany and Europe. So that basically resembles everything that we have heard, I think, earlier on as well. And what I would like to tap into is what we've heard from the founders, from the startups earlier on. And I think we have here 3 advocates for that as well. There are many consultants who say, hey, give us a share of your startup and we bring you to Hamburg and we help you grow. I would like to advocate to all Indian startups or developers or interested innovators, look for dedicated places like the Digital Hub is one for logistics, where you can try out things without really having the pressure to right away become a unicorn, where you can also tap into different cultural settings. What we've seen here in a couple of startups is that it worked very well to combine some Indian expertise with a co-founder from Germany. And yeah, I'm of course looking forward to see how that will develop in the year to come. And maybe we can go and visit India one day again, but let's see how the situation evolves.
Yeah, that we remain very hopeful for that. And I'll remain with you for the moment. I've seen that TUHH is also one of the partners for you. And TUHH has quite a bit of focus on logistics and a large number of Indian students. And do you have some tips for Indian students, or like how maybe they can get more into this startup mode?
So, as I tried to describe earlier, we are a very open place. If there wasn't this little virus, we would be even more open and would have even more events going on. And there are lots of teams from TUHH, but also from other universities in Hamburg that come after their degree and say, we want to found a country. We have the support by different city initiatives and bodies, and we will start for 1 year and we want to come into the Digital Hub. That also means that all these startups at some point of time will need new human brain power, new human resources, and you can find all of the information online. We have a community app that is easily accessible. So maybe it would be a stupid saying to say, don't be shy, you shy, you die, but don't be shy to all students at TUHH, and for this event in particular to our Indian students. Just come by, just look around. We have a job wall where all of our startups are frequently looking for people, and I think that's an easy way forward.
Thank you, Johannes. And Lily, if I might ask you about the overall generic trend in Hamburg, because what Johannes said was more specific to logistics. Do you see some development or some trend of Indian students who are in Hamburg going for their own ventures, trying out some new things? Have you made some observations in this regard?
Yes, definitely. We do have a few. I wouldn't say a lot, but I would have say maybe a few, 2 or 3 startups. They finished their studies, they decided to stay in Hamburg, and they started their own startups. So we heard from you earlier on how many Indian students are actually in Hamburg. And I must say that as a student, you have lots of opportunities. And all students in Germany, you are allowed to work 20 hours per week. So make use of the time. You can use these 20 hours to work in the restaurants, or you can really use this time to work for corporations to gain some hands-on experiences. And then later, maybe when you're ready, you would like to set up your own startup. That is possible. As a student, you can even set up a startup right in the middle of your studies. So as long as you get some capitals and proofs of concepts, then you can set up your own startups. You just have to go to the Ausländerbehörde, which is the foreign authority, to add in one clause that is the sections 21. And after that, all students have around 18 months time to look for a job. So make use of this time, because during this time you're allowed to work in the restaurant if you wish, to gain some money to support your studies, or you can even go out and work for a corporate. This is generally a job seeking visa. So during this time, maybe you're meeting somebody else and you decided to set up a startup, and that is also possible. So then later, maybe you are being employed by a corporate, and you just simply change your visa to either an employment pass or a blue card. And if you are happy enough and you would like to set up a startups, then just do that, because it is all about you, what you want to do. And all the students have this 18 months times after their studies to try something out. So make use of this time.
Great tip from you, Lily. And I think there is one question to Julian, but I think it's a rather easy one. Is there any similar platform like Hamburg Invest in Berlin to support new founders? Julian, do you want to say something?
Yeah, basically every state or every city-state also, they have their own initiative to support. In Berlin, it's called Berlin Partner. So you can reach out to me and I can connect you, or you can also check Berlin Partner website directly, reach out to them.
Great. And now coming back to our core discussions, we heard from the panel before us about certain challenges that you face in finding the right persons, maybe, or we heard that it was relatively easy to found a company here, etc. What are, Julian, your experiences when you deal with startup companies in India, and if they wish to come to Germany, what are the typical challenges that they face in your observation?
Generally, I would call it lack of orientation. So Germany is very decentralized, organized in a very decentralized way, just like India, and is therefore different compared to the UK, where you just say like, well, of course, you got to go to London, right? And over here, you really need to do your research. But fortunately, you can do that from home as well. You really need to do your research to see, okay, what does the market look like? Who are the players? What is the regions? But the players also in terms of competitors, or also potential customers, or also cooperation partners from corporates, or maybe also research institutes, you name it. So it really takes quite some time to figure out what the best location could be for you, or figure out where the most important players are there for you. And then from there, starting your network slowly. Attend events, a network, yes, online, it's not easy, but build your network slowly, and then through that network you get the expertise, you meet other startups that are in the field, through places like the logistics hub. Well, of course, there you have already access to the corporates, but also the other startups in that field, so you get really, really hands-on and best insights in that particular field. So that is what I always recommend to the startups there. But yeah, everyone has to do their homework, and you can do that research from your desk and figure it out. So that's what we actually found out now during the pandemic, that we offered some digital delegations, and it turns out that this is really, really helpful. Of course, it's nice to travel, and eventually really need to travel and see and meet, but it really helps also to save many resources. And we set up this 11 sessions, really 11 steps to enter the German market. and do it digitally, and that is really, really cost effective for everyone to do it. Of course, we have the government support to also offer this at free cost, but that helps a lot to shed some light and for some initial orientation for the startup founders. Yeah.
That sounds like a very interesting idea, digital delegation. I never heard of it, and it sounds very appealing to me. And it's also sort of a frugal solution, affordable, green excellence without actually moving. You can observe it. Can you explain it a bit? How does it work? And if our audience, someone out of our audience wants to take part into it, how it could probably work out?
So actually, we did it for the first time last year. We organized it, and then we had also, to be honest, it's a learning by doing also for us and trial and error. We organized many sessions, and then, well, the attention span to attend all the session was also is also different, right? In online sessions, so we opened it to many startups to just attend the session. And then you see some people drop out, and we simply also organized too many sessions. So it was really, we also expected too much, because we thought we have much more time at hand. Digitally, you can put 5 sessions per day, on one day, and offline you would say first half of the day you visit that place, second half we have some networking, and that's it, right? So, and then we really made it into 10 or now 11 steps of really different topics of understanding the regions, then understanding, expert talks, then fundraising, then pitch training, then about the business communication and culture in Germany. That really helps a lot for the startups that are really motivated and really want to take away the best from it. Lili was also speaking there, of course, representing Hamburg to get some ideas there. We have good success stories from the last from the last cohort that we took. Now, unfortunately, the application deadline has passed already for the next trip that is coming end of November. Now, but please stay tuned, because next year we might be able to offer another trip together with our partners.
Okay, perfect. Maybe even I would like to join one of the delegation events and be there with you. Yeah, that would be.
There's the demo day where all the startups of the delegations will pitch. That is on 6th of December.
Okay, great. 6th of December. I'll keep note of it. And Lili, if I come back to you, we heard from Julian about some challenges that we face in general or at the national level. What about Hamburg? Are there certain Hamburg-specific challenges and chances, what you observe in the field of Indo-German startup collaboration?
In the past few weeks, I received quite a number of inquiries from India, especially during the India weeks, and people started to write to me through LinkedIn, and then they started to send their pitch deck to me. And I was wondering, why are they sending the pitch deck to me? Then they asked me questions like, Lili, you are working with the Hamburg Invest, and what are you investing in? Okay. I said, I'm sorry, I think there is a big misunderstanding here. I'm not investing in any startups, but we are the promotion agency for the city of Hamburg. We have startups to set up their base here. And of course, I'm not alone. I have my startup unit with me. We are in the big teams, Hamburg Invest. So startup units is giving free consultations for startups who would like to start their business in Hamburg. And also YOTA, Young Talents. I have another team of colleagues who's helping young entrepreneurs and students who actually, when they finish a study, where they can do, what can they go, all those kind of free consultations. And the challenges is that I realized that I received quite a lot of inquiries from India, and a lot of them, they are only looking for 3 things. Investor, how can I get fundings, and how can I get my customers? And those things, you have to do it yourself, because I will be a connector. I'm happy to introduce my network to you, but you have to do your own homework. You have to get at least 1 or 2 business cases before you come to expand your business to Europe. Otherwise, you're going to suffer. Otherwise, you won't even get your visa. That is the whole point. You know, you have to get 1 or 2 business cases and proof of concept. And once you are matured enough, then you can expand to Germany.
And by the way, like those investment companies, organizations, they also do exist in India, for instance, India Invest. So they are not really investing themselves, rather they are promoting investment in a particular location. So just to clarify that term. And obviously you are not market consulting, rather your job is to promote Hamburg for investments and to get to attract investors from around the world for the city of, or the metropolitan region of Hamburg. I'm not sure whether it's just the city or it's the, okay. And do you also have some programs which are maybe more targeted at international students, from which maybe also the Indian students can benefit?
Yes, definitely. In Hamburg, I mean, the ecosystem is manifold. We do have a lot of programs, as far as I know, that Be Your Pilot is one of the great programs that actually are collaborations with 4 universities together with 1 research center, Daisy and Hamburg Innovation. So they give free consultations to startups who like to dive in their technologies, as well as, you know, to make their visions a dream comes true. So those are organizations you can always get in touch with. And I have some other examples, you know, like the Hamburg Business Administration, School of Hamburg Administrations. They also have this innovations hub, Square Innovations. They help their entrepreneurs to skill. And if you take a look at Digital Campus, the Hammer Brooklyn Center, they have a youth center. They are helping also young entrepreneurs to develop their ideas. And at the same time in Hamburg, we also have Fab Lab. For young students, you know, not everybody have 3D printers at home or laser cutters. So you can always go there and speak to Andreas, and he will help you develop your ideas. So those are some great examples that they could tap into. And I'm happy to say that Hamburg Invest and our partners, maybe, we're going to have a landing pad program next year. And we're currently still developing it, but stay tuned, you know, we are happy to offer this kind of programs to Indian startups.
Okay. And maybe before I come with my question to Johannes, I just read the question which has come up in the discussion here. I currently live in Germany, but plan to go to India in a few years to start my company. Is it advisable to obtain a PR before I go back? Does it help? Who of you wants to say something about that? PR, I'm presuming it's permanent residence.
If you are living in Germany, if you plan to go to India, I think, how are you going to get a PR? I mean, there is 2 different things. So
I guess PR does not help you much, because PR is always valid only if you do not leave the country for more than 6 months at a go. So if you are going to a third country, whatever country it is, if you do not come back within 6 months, your PR is gone anyway, as far as I know. So that doesn't help much. Yeah. And Johannes, now I would like to know from you, because it was a very impressive figure, 10% of your startups here have an India connection. What's in your dealings, maybe, like, have you observed something which is very characteristic of those Indian companies? Maybe the challenges, maybe there are special challenges, maybe there are some special value propositions. So is there something which is different about them?
Before I come to your question and answer that, I would like to stress one more point that Lili has mentioned. The expectation that you can digitally access all of our services and then basically build a sales arm into Germany or into Hamburg while still sitting only in India and let us do all the work, that doesn't work. And that's also one thing that hints already towards my answer to your question, is that I've seen a couple of startups every now and again who say, oh, wow, you have this network and you have all these big corporations with global names in your partner network. Here is our pitch deck. We want to sell them our software. Please let us know when we can have a chat, and then we'll earn some money. This is not how it can work. You really need a longer term dedication to it if you establish in the German market, because the corporations or the possible clients that we have, and only talking for maritime and logistics here, they also want to see some longer term dedication than just throwing a software over and working with it. But let me end on that point on a positive fact. Lily has mentioned all students, they can work and earn some money for 20 hours over a week. And I see there a great opportunity for Indian startups who are saying, hey, we want to join Julian's programs, but we also want to get a little bit more intelligence, a little bit more on-ground feeling of what is going on in Hamburg, how are different logistical topics being played. Why not hire a working student? They don't cost that much, and let them be the pathfinder for you in a city like Hamburg. So that was my long answer to not even your question. So I come back to your question. I can only echo what Julian has said, that the Indian spirit is more like, let's try out things, let's try out new things, let's improve process A, let's improve process B. While many Indian startups or innovators that I've seen here in the hub remain very humble about what they are actually doing, a little bit introvert at most times, looking around, having these 90% of German or other international people running around. So therefore, I have seen it always as beneficial to connect with other people who are here, not only from with a German background, but with international backgrounds. And there, this Indian dedication, that spirit of, hey, there's nothing that we can't improve with our digital mindset. That is a real added value, and the steadiness, the dedication, really helps these 6 startups that I've mentioned. But as always, for us as well, when Lili and me visited Mumbai a couple of years ago, we also faced some cultural challenges. But I think if you go into with an open mindset and say, hey, every also cultural challenge can end with an enlightenment, then everything is possible.
That would be great to achieve an enlightenment.
Oh yeah, okay. That's maybe I'm looking into the light here, so maybe that's why I'm saying enlightenment.
No, but that's a beautiful, beautiful idea. I love it. And Johannes, do you have some support program? Like, I don't mean in terms of financial support, etc., but in terms of network expanding, network creation, where students, not just from India, but from anywhere, even maybe outside Hamburg, can sometimes join you and interact with people?
Yes. However, we don't have a really structured, dedicated 6 or 9 month program, as we believe that each and every startup is different in its goals and also in its needs. So we try to offer a very broad variety of events, of matchmaking formats, of individual consultations when needed, to help every single startup differently. And we've, over the last 2 years, of course, done a lot of digital event formats where people can join. We have on our homepage a subscription link to our newsletter where you get a monthly idea of what events are happening. And as I said earlier, when I talked about the students, whenever there's a need or interest, just approach us. And we may not always be the right contact point, but we have excellent contact points within the city of Hamburg. which we then contact, and I think in many cases that has been very fruitful.
Thank you. Then let's move on to Lily, because Johannes has a very specific portfolio and you have a more generic portfolio. What is your support system, Lily? What can you offer to students, international students especially, and maybe Indian students who have entrepreneurial ambitions, let's say?
Yes. As I mentioned before, we belong to the city of Hamburg. We give free consultations on every aspect if you want to form a company, or simply just book an appointment with me, with my startup unit, come for a coffee, and we can discuss about where you're going, what you're doing, what you're planning, because we are free of charge, so make use of the resources. That's the things. Instead of paying tons of money, you go for consultants, go for lawyer, sometimes you can solve it and you just need some advisors. So please have an appointment with all of us and we will see how we can help you. I see myself as a connector. If you come to me, I will connect you to all my networks wherever I can, because I'm not able to know everything myself. Therefore, come to me and I will connect you to my network. And also see myself as a hunter. I travel once a year to India and I'll scout for mature startups that exist, who could expand to Hamburg. And therefore, I'm really grateful that we are also part of the GINSEP network, and we collaborate in some events, and we help Indian startups to enter the German market.
So you provide a support system. You don't
yes, we give
take over all responsibility for all functions for them,
I would
right?
say we give guidance, and
Right,
if you get lost, if you do not know where to go, we give orientations.
Yeah, so Julian, before I come to you, maybe just again this follow-up question on this immigration issue. Is there a way to inform immigration offices that I'll be out of Germany for more than 6 months due to startup work and still be able to hold the PR? I guess we are not immigration experts here, so we should not be giving you a very concrete advice. I believe it might be possible in some exceptional cases, but I don't know whether it's something regular.
Maybe you want to get in touch of the Welcome Center, because they are the right person to answer all your questions.
And Julian, if you could simply add to what Lily was saying about the support system which is provided by GINSEP, that would be very beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as Lily said, we are connected with the different, let's say, enablers throughout Germany. And I always recommend to startups, of course, to have the idea or to get an understanding of what is out there in Germany, but also in the different regions. And the area that has the best, let's say, offer, and I'm not talking about, well, it's the cheapest to set up your office, but is kind of most attractive for you, most relevant for you. And with that one, you should go for, or maybe you shortlist 2 or 3, and then you're in contact and you see what suits best, what fits your requirements the best. So that's what we are trying. So we're trying to guide the startups a little bit on their orientation. I used the term orientation earlier, so for them to bring some orientation to them, but also many. But we're also sharing many opportunities, calls for applications for incubators or accelerators in Germany, or different programs that are there from different things. So we always share that on our website, also on our LinkedIn, where international startups, or in that case Indian startups, can also apply. So we really want to be that platform to bring together all the different organizations, but also then the opportunities for the startups, that they know, okay, there is a great opportunity for me. Let's apply. They currently have a call for application for, I don't know, some prizes, some funds, or I mean, corporates are of course also always hunting for startups. So we are bringing, consolidating all these offers there, and then. Besides that, of course, some capacity building, different events that we do. I mentioned the demo days. We have pitch events as well. So the best is really to check out the website and subscribe to the newsletter, and of course follow us on LinkedIn, because there we're sharing all the things that we are organizing, but of course also our partner is organizing.
And one thing that goes through my mind is we have heard in the panel before ours that it is very useful to have German partners. And if you think of students, then if you are studying in a German university, you would, of course, also have many German students or European students. Do you have an advice for them how they can maybe find out good Indian potential startup co-founders? Maybe not just in the German universities, but also within India.
Yeah, I think, of course, online. What one can do is attend events, right? Of course, online events to build a network, slowly build a network, and meet some people there. But of course, the thing is like where to start, what to do. So indeed, it's quite a challenge. I think, of course, what is easier if you are already in that other country, or you have established some connect through maybe a client, a potential client, maybe cooperation partner. Of course, the students that are here already mingle and attend some network events, some startup events, to really get, on the one hand, meet relevant people, on the other hand, of course, also get new ideas, right? So get ideas on what is out there, understand the market or the ecosystem better, and I think that helps. But at this point, we have to focus on digital events and try to make the best of it. But I think the more you research and get an understanding of what is out there, the easier it also is to establish your network in that field, because you can attend very specific events, right? And then it's important to be proactive, and not just sending out pitch decks, but be proactive and really that one can see, one is really putting, like there's a genuine interest and not just a standardized email.
So maybe one final question to all of you with request for a quick answer. It's like, Julian, maybe we can begin with you, if it's okay. Right now you need water. If there would be one measure that you would recommend for promoting this Indo-German partnership in startups, which we have not talked about maybe so far, what would that be?
To the Germans out here, don't overlook India. Definitely don't don't underestimate India. And make use of the Indians that are here. Get them, on board as employees. They might be also really good for looking to the Indian market later on for you. So that I think is a really important point. And then, of course, also to the Indians, do your homework, do some research, and then reach out to really respective players like Logistics Hub or like Lily here at Hamburg Invest, or also, of course, GINSEP. So this is how it starts, and from there we can build something really, really nice, and really keep this focus on maybe Indo-German, like a cooperation between the two teams, or with an international team of Indians and Germans. So keep that as a focus, because that seems to be very fruitful.
Thank you. And Lily, what would be on your wish list?
Oh yes, Raj, thank you for these questions. I think Christmas is coming around. I have a lot of wishes. And if I could just have one wish, I wish to have more female founders in the startups world. Women are great in tech, and especially Indian women. I met so many students, so many female students in the last few weeks, and they all are highly educated. They are great in, they are doing engineering, medicines, or IT. They are coming from IT sectors, so they are really, really great. So we have to promote women. We have to have more women in the startup world to promote openness, to promote diversities and competitiveness. Thank you.
Thank you. Johannes.
I think from the looking from the German side to India, I can only say to all German startups, India is worth it, not only because of the fantastic food, but because of the fact that the Indian way of making business and looking at things isn't that far away from the German way of doing things. And I think for the Indian side, looking to Germany, we've heard many positive examples and aspects today. Just try out. I think these 2 hours have given many points of entry for how you can enter the German and in particular the Hamburg market. So you are cordially welcome, and wishing you a good rest of the year.
Yes, thank you very much. Dear colleagues, thank you very much for these very insightful comments and this discussion that we have had. It has been a pleasure for me to speak with you, and I also learned quite a lot. And I hope we can continue with such discussions and such events, maybe also in future. And Stefan, we are back to the back to square one, where we were all sitting, all 5 of us. So I hand over to you. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Raj. Thank you very much, Johannes, Lili, Julian. We are already at the end. Hard to believe, but time was flying. Thanks to you, thanks to Peter Kabul, thanks to our startup stories, for all the encouraging, impressive insights you shared with us. And thank you very much to the participants outside, online, for your questions, for your interest. And I don't want to forget to thank Tom. You can't see him, but Tom, he's the technician. And thank you very much who made this possible, this event. Thank you very much. Great job, Tom. We're at the end. So there's nothing much for me to say, because all the important information, advices, experiences were shared from all of you. We can only encourage you to write your own, to start your own Indo-German startup story, not only just for students, but everybody else. So we learned a lot about the startup ecosystem here in Hamburg, but not only in Hamburg, also in other cities, but of course we are promoting our hometown, right? And the final remarks, don't be shy, as it was mentioned. Make use of the ecosystem, of the stakeholders. They're offering wonderful support. Find the right partners, and the right partners, as Peter said, but just do it. And hopefully we will have a similar event in future, and then we will hear about new Indo-German startup stories, and hopefully some of you will be then the participants on this sofa. Thanks to all of you, and to the rest, have a good day, have a good night, and stay healthy. Bye-bye.
And thank you, Stefan, for a wonderful moderation.
Thank you.